What is up, Hot Wheels racing fans? This is the moment you've been waiting for. The 2025 NASCAR Nitro Series Modified Daytona 500. It is here. 26 of the biggest and fastest modified Hot Wheels from builders all across the planet are here to duke it out on the high banks of Daytona Superspeedway. Y'all are in for one hell of a show, and we're going to kick it off with Sloppy Bear on the pole, sitting next to Clyde. Also in segment one, there is Christy, not Christina, like I said in the driver introduction video, in the number 28 Dodge Charger. Behind them, we have Puff in the number 6, the Owlman in the number 38, Bill Z. Bub in the number 47, and the 999 of Gavin McSpladge, who made it in on the last chance qualifier. The gates are down, and Sloppy Bear and Clyde are side by side. Sloppy Bear slides across the finish line to keep the lead for lap 2. The Owlman picked up a couple spots at the expense of Puff. The front 2 cars stayed the same. The back 2 cars stayed the same. The gates are down, and Sloppy Bear gets a pretty good push from the extra car behind him. While Clyde's got to catch up on his own, the Owlman is too busy blocking and losing a lot of ground doing it. They're neck and neck heading into the fat track, and Sloppy Bear is getting a good push from Christy, who flips onto her lid coming out of the turn. Caution is out. Monster El Reco. What a shame. Sloppy Bear almost recovers in time, but he does not. He is on his side before crossing the line. That is unfortunate. Clyde takes a commanding lead heading into lap 3 out of 5. Puff is now in second place. Gavin McSpladge in third. Bill and the Owlman are both just glad to be here right now, and Gavin McSpladge is making a move on Puff for second place. Gavin's car weighs half as much as Puff's car does, and he's making it tough for Puff to even stay in second place here. Clyde is running away with this segment, and Gavin McSpladge holds off Puff for second place. And now it's time for lap 4, just 2 to go. Can Gavin McSpladge pull off the upset? He had to race his way in after crashing during qualifying, and he gets a half a car length lead right out of the gate. Gavin McSpladge is pulling away as the Lionel castings are sinking like rocks in the inside lane. Puff almost seems distracted out there. He lets Bill just drive right on by without putting up any fight at all. And Gavin McSpladge bins it. Caution is out. His Cinderella run has ended with just a lap and a half to go. He flew too close to the sun. Gavin puts a nasty block on him on the top of the turn, and there is no way to recover from that. Now it is time for the final lap. We have Clyde in first place. He's been dominant all segment long. Bill Z. Bub moves his way from 4th to 2nd. Puff in 3rd. The Owlman, forget about it. He's toast. And look at Bill Z. Bub putting up a fight heading into the fat track. And Clyde builds his lead to a bumper length right before the transition. This is not looking good for him. You saw what happened to Gavin McSpladge last lap. He survives, but Clyde takes the lead, full car length, and they are lined up one by one across the finish line. And the starting order of that lap is your finishing order. Now it is time for segment 2. On the front row is Clyde's teammate from Uncle Elvis Racing, Heather, as well as Casey Kane. We have Puff's teammate, Misty G. We have both of the Barora Bangers, Sparky Racer from Mark Russell Racing, and our other last chance driver, Burt Buzzard for Cut Rock Creek Racing. The gates are down, and Heather already has a car length lead over Casey Kane before they even hit the fat track. Judging by the stock race and that first segment, and now this lap, Uncle Elvis is here to make a statement. Basically, the whole field moves into the outside lane once they get into the fat track. All that moving around the positions don't even change at all. Heather and Casey Kane still on the front row. STG and Gale Force in the second row. Gaza sinking like a rock coming out of the gate on this lap. Burt Buzzard and Sparky Racer fly past him. As the cars spread further and further out, the further they get down the track. Heather gets a little squirrely coming into the turn, but survives, and looks like Misty G loses a spot to Gale Force. Burt Buzzard picks up a spot there too. Now it's time for lap 3. Pretty uneventful, clean racing segment so far. Heather and Casey Kane have been the class of the field, while all the other guys behind them are too busy beating each other up to try and get ahead. They're like crabs pulling each other down back into the pot. And Heather gets a car length lead over Casey Kane. And now Gale Force is trying to make a move for second. Force and Casey Kane are neck and neck. Meanwhile, Sparky Racer's not making it easy for Misty G to stay in that front pack. He might get some momentum heading into the turn, but it's another clean lap. Gale Force takes second away from Casey Kane. Misty G holds on to 4th, and Gaza is not giving up, trying to gain spots. It's hard when nobody in front of you is making mistakes like you're used to seeing last season. Now 2 laps to go. That extra car on the track hasn't really impacted things in terms of track safety. Nobody's wrecked. It's just been clean racing so far. And Heather continues to dominate. She's got a 1.5 car length lead over Gale Force heading into the fat track portion. She moves into the turns, and Casey Kane gets high, and caution is out for an El Reco. Our very first one of the segment. Casey Kane's day is done. And that is the break that a lot of these other guys have been looking for in the back heading into the final lap. But enough talking about him. He wrecked. Heather has been the star of the show this whole segment. Complete total domination. Much like the Philadelphia Eagles dominating the Dallas Cowboys 75-13 in their 2 matchups. Rub that in their faces next week when we go to Texas Motor Speedway. There's going to be an Eagles-related surprise there. And Misty G takes second place. Heather, of course, is dominant. And Burt Buzzard moves himself all the way up 4th after racing his way in as the last chance qualifier and languishing in last place the whole segment. And now it is time for segment number 3. We have Lord Raymond and Lucky Jackson in the front row. And in the second row, we have Lucky Jackson's boss, Po Boy, as well as Riot Isaac. And in the back, we have Gray in the red Monte Carlo, and Giorgio in the number 27 IROC Trans Am. And Giorgio, who wiped the floor with his opponent in the tiebreaker duel, seems to have stalled at the start gate while Lucky Jackson and Lord Raymond are neck and neck for the lead, and it looks like Raymond's going to get a slight edge there to hold on to the lead. An exciting race up front, neck and neck, but no changes in position for lap 2. And the gates are down, and it looks like Giorgio is having trouble with the start gate again. The other 5 cars have opened up quite a sizable gap before they even got to the fat track, and Lord Raymond is out there by himself, while Po Boy takes second place away from his teammate. The cars are lined up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Po Boy takes second place away from Lucky Jackson. Spots 4, 5, and 6 remain the same. Heading into lap 3, and the gates are down again. Po Boy and Lord Raymond are side by side, pulling away from the rest of the pack. It looks like Lucky Jackson is pulling away from Riot Isaac to hold on to 3rd place. He gives a little bit of a bump draft to Lord Raymond to try and steal 2nd place back from his teammate, but it doesn't work. Po Boy throws a block, and with 2 to go and having one of the heaviest cars in the league pushing him, he's in prime position to take the lead from Lord Raymond right before the final lap. And the gates are down, and Giorgio gets stuck again. Meanwhile, Gray tries to make a move for 4th place on Riot Isaac, and Lord Raymond is running away with it. He's making a statement here. Lucky Jackson and his teammate are fighting for 2nd place still, and Lucky's going to get it this time. The 2 Po Boy cars cannibalizing each other like Po Boy sandwiches. It looks like Gray is going to get the edge there. And the track officials from the judges' van says he does. He'll be lining up 4th, Riot Isaac in 5th. Nobody's been able to stop Lord Raymond so far because of the Po Boy teammates fighting with each other. And the gates are down, and Lucky Jackson is neck to neck with Lord Raymond. Po Boy gets a push from Riot Isaac, battling with Gray further back in the pack, and looks like Lord Raymond's got a 1/2 car length lead heading into the split track portion. And Lucky makes up some ground heading into the turn. Po Boy gets a great shot from Riot Isaac, rides up the track, knocks his teammate off the track sideways before he hits the finish line. That is a disappointing 6th place finish for Lucky Jackson as he recovers off of the track. Now it's time for segment number 4, the final segment of the day. On the front row, we have former Sub-4 RA superstar Harry Hoon in the 97 and Elton Sawyer in the number 38 for Mark Racel Racing. We have William for Uncle Elvis, and both Dog Squad teammates Jay Bo and Mike Concho, and Kendrick Lamar's favorite driver Charlie Verney in the black GNX, which is actually a Grand Prix. And it is a very tight pack heading into the turns and out of the turns. Harry Hoon holds on to it, and William moves up to 2nd place. Elton Sawyer not far behind. The Dog Squad teammates running side by side. Charlie Verney bringing up the back. First and last place split by a fraction of a second. Some of the tightest but cleanest racing we've seen so far today. And it looks like Williams going to get a little bit of a jump off out of the gate for lap 2, but Harry Hoon makes up the deficit and gets a 1/2 car length lead by the time he gets to the end of the split track. Charlie Verney loses a lot of ground here before he gets into the fat track portion, but seems to catch up through the turns. Elton Sawyer and William are fighting each other for 2nd place, and Harry Hoon is loving it watching these guys fight each other behind him. He had a full car length lead at the end of that lap. And for lap 3, let's see if anybody has anything for Harry Hoon. The gates are down. It's a pretty tight pack heading out of the gates. Charlie Verney loses a bit of ground there. Doesn't seem to take the jump as well as the other drivers do for some reason. And this time the pack's a little more spread out compared to prior laps. You have Elton Sawyer and Jay Bowe fighting each other for third, but first and second's pretty much defined. Mike finally settles into fifth place, and Charlie falls in behind him, catching up to the rest of the pack after these slow starts. Harry Hoon and William have been the class of the field with 2 laps to go. They've run first and second every time. Almost impossible to pass. 2 laps to go. The gates are down. Does anybody have anything for these guys? They already open up a half a car length over everybody else. That expands to a full car length by the time they get to the end of the split track, and they are neck and neck. William wants this win badly, and he gets a little bit of an advantage heading into the turn. Harry Hoon shuts the door with a perfect reverse side draft, and no positions actually change heading into the final lap. Now it's time for the final lap of segment racing in the Daytona 500. It's been the Harry Hoon show the whole time. Williams put up a valiant fight. All these other cars have a weight advantage over Harry Hoon, but he's been getting it done, putting up violent block after violent block. Does anybody have anything left for him? Elton Sawyer gets a great jump off of the start. He is side by side with William, battling for second place. This is Harry Hoon's race to lose, and Elton Sawyer's trying to take second from William, lock himself into a top 10. El Recco for Elton Sawyer gets way too aggressive, coming out of the turns, moves himself from the top 10 to the bottom 5 with that wreck. He is upside down. Only 5 DNFs in the segment racing. Great clean racing. That's not even 2 El Reccos per segment. Now let's see who can keep this momentum going in the 5th and 6th race. We have Sparky Racer and Giorgio on the front row, Charlie Verney and Gaza in the second row, and our lone 6th place finisher, Lucky Jackson, bringing up the rear. Lucky Jackson actually trying to salvage some points after choking away second place on the final lap of his segment. And boy, do we have some classic tight pack restrictor plate racing heading into the turns. Giorgio's looking for an advantage over Sparky Racer, and Sparky holds him off. Giorgio goes spinning. Charlie finds a gap, swoops in, and takes second place away. Now it's time for the final lap of the 5th and 6th race. Who's going to move on to the 4th race? Is it going to be Sparky Racer, Charlie Verney, or one of these other guys behind him? The gates are down. Giorgio looking a lot smoother in that inside lane, getting a push from Lucky Jackson, but Gaza's bump drafting Charlie to give him a half a car length lead heading into the fat track portion. Now Charlie and Gaza in the outside lane are running away with it. Sparky Racer's trying to mount a comeback here. Caution's out. El Recco. That's a DNF for Giorgio, and Gaza tags the official's van on the way out. And Charlie Verney is your winner. Made that clutch move on the first lap, which y'all just saw on the replay, and now it's time for the first lap of the 4th race. Gray gets a pretty decent jump off the start gate, gets a push from Burt Buzzard, who fought his way up from 7th place on the final lap of his segment, and Burt Buzzard looks to try and pass the Owlman for second place in this segment. Owlman choking away the pole here, and caution is out. El Recco. And this time it's Mike Honcho trying to make a move, salvage a couple points, and that backfires. Gray looked crazy fast on that first lap, and now he starts this second lap in the lead. Harry Hoon. Don't count him out, though. He's racing here with a purpose. He's got a point to prove after crashing in qualifying, almost missing the race, and starting in last place. They are neck and neck heading into the turn. Harry Hoon gets the advantage. He reverse side drafts Gray from the outside and sends Gray into the wall. Harry Hoon will move on to the 3rd race. And starting in first place for the 3rd race is Puff. Right behind him is his teammate Riot Isaac, 2 of the heaviest cars in the segment. Gale Force has another real heavy car of Jay Bowe pushing her. Puff and Gale Force are making it a contest for the lead here early in the first lap. Riot Isaac is blocking for his teammate / employer as Puff gets a full car length lead heading into the turns. And Puff, well, the whole field gets a little squirrely coming out of the turn. Puff is going to lead that lap by 2 car lengths, and Jay Bowe is on his roof. His day is done. And now it's time for lap number 2. That jolt after the finish line from Harry Hoon caused one of Riot Isaac's self-tappers to come out. And he says he's going to keep racing this lap if he wins the segment, further laps, but he'll need some repairs after the race. And he's lining up behind his boss to try and push him into the 2nd race. And we have the 2 Australians in the outside row. This is restrictor plate racing at its finest. We have 1 row of teammates, 1 row of Australian pseudo teammates, like the Ford and Chevy drivers linking up with the full-size cars. Gale Force is not making this easy for Puff, and Gale Force tries to make a move for the lead and gets pushed off the track right before the finish, knocks over the official's van, and would you look at Riot Isaac, completely split in half. You take a look at the drone footage hovering over the body of Riot Isaac's car. he'll get credit for finishing the lap even though he didn't win the second race, because his chassis crossed the finish line on its wheels. And here we are. We're going to slow this down, break it down for you guys. Riot Isaac loses speed coming out of the gate. Then tries to slide up the track and knock Burt Buzzard off of it, but doesn't work because his body separates from his chassis right there. You can see his chassis cross the finish line on his wheels. What we have here is like Morgan Shepherd's car exploding, but on steroids. That was one of the most insane things I've seen in the NASCAR Nitro Series so far. It's a bittersweet day for Puff because he'll be moving on to the seconds race, guaranteed a spot in the top 10. But one of those cars cost more than a year's worth of avocado toast, and I'm sure he's not too thrilled to be paying his body shop guys overtime. Now the gates are down for the seconds race. Now Puff and his teammate are both on the inside row here. Sandwiched between them is William for Uncle Elvis Racing, and next to William is Bill for Demon Preacher Racing. Remember, William is red, Bill is green. Po' Boy tries to take the lead from Misty G, but she reverse side drafts him off the track. And Po' Boy goes sightseeing around the HSL headquarters. Guess he's not too concerned about winning the seconds race. Misty G is going to lead the field to green for the last lap of the seconds race for a trip to the main event. Next to her is William. Behind them is Bill Z, Bub, and Puff, and finally Po' Boy in fifth. And William tries to take the lead from Misty G before heading into the fat track. Misty G pulls away to a half a car length lead, makes that a full car length lead heading into the turn. Bill Z, Bub tries to take second place away from William. They're making it a dogfight, and Misty G is going to ride that momentum into the main event. Looks like Bill got the advantage over William at the last second to take sixth place away. But enough talking about those guys. It's main event time. Heather and Lord Raymond on the front row. We have Clyde, we have Ford, Toyota, Pontiac, and Chevy. We have Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Racing Champions, and Lionel. We have two different countries. Heather holds off hard charges by Lord Raymond and her own teammate Clyde to keep the lead for lap one. The third row curse is real for Misty G, who looks like a totally different driver here. Clyde takes second place from Lord Raymond. It's time for lap two. The gates are down, and Heather gets a great jump off the start, getting bump draft by Lord Raymond, who aims to take second place away from Clyde. His arch enemy, Lord Shank, missed the race, and he's trying to get as much of a point advantage against him as possible. He moves up to second place for lap two, following behind Heather, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Misty G passes Harry Hoon. Now lining up for lap number 3. Clyde has been a blocker for Heather this whole segment. Lord Raymond has not been making it easy on him. Harry and Misty in their own little race for fourth place here. Maybe one of them can bring something to the table in the final laps and challenge the Uncle Elvis domination that's been going on all weekend long. And it looks like Clyde is going to get second place over Lord Raymond again. Pushes Heather to a big lead. Blocks the rest of the field. Sends Raymond and Misty sideways. Raymond hits the officials van and goes off the track. He'll be starting this lap in last place. And with 2 laps to go, Lord Raymond's basically out of it now. Misty G has a freaking heavy car, the second heaviest car after Clyde in this segment. Mark D's cars dominated Lord Shank's Racing Series, got at least half of the wins. Heather's still got to be the heavy favorite, but it is still anybody's race. The gates are down. Heather and Clyde have formed a wall, far ahead of the other drivers. They've got a full car length lead over the rest of the field before even getting into the fat track. Heather slides up the racetrack to reverse side draft her teammate. That lets Misty G try and get through for second place, but Clyde holds her off. And Uncle Elvis holds on to the front row for the final lap. This is it. This is the last lap of the Daytona 500. One of these drivers are going to enshrine their name permanently into the HSL history books as the winner of the very first modified Daytona 500 on the HSL Diecast channel. And Heather is absolutely dominating this lap. She gets a 3-4 car length lead. They all fall into line behind her as Heather wins the Daytona 500, completing the Uncle Elvis sweep. Uncle Elvis wins both the stock and modified races with Heather and William. And these are your race results and point standings. Starting next week, we'll have separate race results and point standings, of course. But we got a whole bunch of different builders in the top 10. What a great race weekend to kick off the 2025 NASCAR Nitro Series. Here's the other half of the points. It is nowhere near over yet. Like last year, I said Sterling Marlin missed the Daytona 500, and he ended up being one big one in the main event away from winning the championship. It is still anybody's race. Thanks to everybody who sent a car in. I could not have done this without you. And it is not too late to send in a car. Just go to redlinederby.com, look for the NASCAR Nitro Racing Series. Send your cars to P.O. Box 7, Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, 18091. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, leave a comment. We'll see you next time at Texas Motor Speedway. Peace out, guys.